Today we are talking about the Somalis coming from the refugee camps of maybe in some other parts of Kenya who are coming to Smallland or Kronoberry or Vekho. We want to understand how their life is at the moment, what are their hopes, expectations, their wishes, what are their dreams, and when they come to Sweden, what challenges do they meet, and how far could they sail into the winds of time in Sweden. So we want to know, how do these people think at the moment about coming to Sweden? And when they come to Sweden, what would they meet with? And the reference point, the background through which we are trying to depict our perceptions or to build our perspectives, is the Somalis that have already come to Sweden, how they expect it and how they had built their dreams before they came here and what they have encountered with. So we want now, on the basis of that, to try to find out, to figure out what these people can think of coming to Sweden and what they miss of thinking about to meet in Sweden. There are something they are missing, as we have missed, all of us, before we came to Sweden. We just had a dream, and when we came, the situation was not almost the same as we had built up in our minds. So we want to make some kind of build some kind of a picture of how does this look like. First, the life of the ordinary Somali refugee in Eastleigh, for example, or in Kenya, or the refugee camp, how does it look like? The Somali refugee ran away from war in the beginning. And in running from war, he had ended up in a Kenyan refugee camp. And in the camp, things are so bad, as we know. All the services are not so potentially functional. The food is in shortage, water is in shortage, the crowded, the population density in the camp is so huge that it's almost crowded, and so many services that are not in place, although the international community are trying their best to help the people in those camps. But still, the demand and the capacity to cover this demand are not compatible. So that is the situation in which the Somali refugee is at the moment. And then he may try to move to the cities in Nairobi, Naivasha, Mombasa, Nakuru, wherever it is. In some parts of Kenya, he may try to move so that he can try to reach out his relatives up in Europe, America, wherever it is, so that with certain remittances they send to him, he can live and sustain life in this area until time comes that he gets out of Kenya, of Africa, and maybe some kind of a resettlement in other parts of the world. Until such time, he may try to live on his own. And when he comes to the city, still, life does not change, because the money he is getting may be so short, so little, that it cannot cover all his needs. And if he stays indoors and tries not to go out because of the expenses that he cannot afford when he goes out, it's very cold. It's too lonely that he cannot sustain himself inside a room for a whole day or a whole month. He has to go out. So that is a problem for him, that he cannot stay indoor nor able to go around. And sometimes some misery finds him in the streets, because there are some policemen in the streets that check those people who do not have the right papers. And he may end up, or she may end up, in a jail, as police put him in jail. So that is another scenario, that a person running away from war, from Somalia, coming to a refugee camp in Kenya, not able to live in that refugee camp, moving to the city to at least help himself with remittances from his families, and not able even to go around on his own will because of expenses and because of security and because of many other reasons we cannot mention at the moment completely, then what would that person do? He may just think of, oh my God, there's no life and there's no peace. There's no peace in the country. And there's no joy here in the host nation. We are particularly taking Kenya because that is where most of the people coming to Smallland are coming now. And a person who does not have peace and who does not have life, who has no joy, and who is a refugee, whose problem is nowhere to stay and nowhere to go, you can imagine what kind of problems, psychological and mental and problems he can have, such a person. And then what will happen? He starts thinking of the country. Oh, if only there was peace. Then he will try to put on the radio to listen to the Somali channels. And what he hears is only war again, more displacement and more refugees leaving the country. And that makes his situation even worse. Because as he can see, there was no way out. And to go back home is not possible because more people are being thrown out by warlords, by religious extremists and terrorists and maybe piracy. That is the kind of a refugee Smallland is expecting to receive in Smallland today. There are hundreds of people waiting to come to Smallland when the situation permits. As you may have heard, there are certain facilitations already going on that the rejection has been waived to some extent, but still we are waiting things to start perfectly in due course. But if something starts, these are the people we are waiting to come to Smallland. And this is the scenario we have gone through as refugees, Somali refugees in Sweden at the moment. Now let's figure out what kind of hope does this man have? A man who can't go back and who doesn't have a place to stay. What kind of a hope does that man have? The only hope is resettlement, that some nation or an organization will sponsor him outside Africa, maybe in Europe or in America, Australia maybe, New Zealand, of course, yes, we have some in that country. So this is the situation. And if that person gets the hope of resettlement, then he will start dreaming then. Now there is hope that the families who have been missing their people are allowed to bring their families to Sweden. So this family reunion gives hope to both sides, to us as Somalis in the diaspora in Sweden, and to our people still remaining or stranded in the refugee camps, whom we had left behind when we were running away from war. So this hope of both sides, let's now focus on the hope of that side, which is in Africa at the moment. The people in Africa, the people who are hoping to be resettled, to be brought to Sweden, and in particular Smallland, are in very special, Kronoberg especially. What is their hope? Their hope is resettlement. Now they have got hope that they are coming to Sweden. But we want to know, to what extent is their hope large or small? It's too large and too big. And when a person gets hope, he starts dreaming. Can we visualize, can we try to figure out what kind of dreams these people are building up at the moment? The dreams we had built before we came to Sweden as refugees, when we were in the refugee camps, was that we get out of this situation and get life and peace in a foreign land on the basis of humanity, regardless of where we came from and what religion we believe and what color we are, have, and all these things, that we get peace and life. Number one, the dreams these people have is peace and life, to get peace and to get life. And then the dream doesn't stop there. It may continue to a situation where the person thinks of opportunities then. What opportunities can we now view out of taking place in his own mind? What kind of opportunities is that person thinking of? Either a man or a woman, or a young man or a young girl. The opportunities these people are thinking at the moment is education, better living standards, employment, mainly employment and education. So if the person comes to Sweden and his dreams become true, or her dreams become true, then that is the highest point of life a person can achieve. Because a person developed some kind of a hope, and that hope developed into a form of a dream, and the dream became true. That's success. But would it be like that? That's what we are going to ask ourselves now. Would it be like that? Would it be a success? Would it be just coming from Africa to Sweden and getting all your dreams coming true? Is it as easy as that? No. It's not as easy as that. There are so many challenges, and so many problems, so many hindrances, so many constraints, so many stumbling blocks on the way to achieving those successes and those dreams. And if we try to at least think of what are these problems a person coming from a refugee camp to Sweden can encounter with, these problems could be, number one, the language. A person has to master the proficiency, the Swedish language. Then he has to look for employment. Then, and there are other things like housing, like other problems which he has to face. But mainly, the problem is concentrated on education, first the language, and then to make certain progress in the field of education, and then getting employment in accordance with what you have learned and have been trained for. These two areas are mostly where a person can make success in this country. And these are the two areas where we are most weak. And I think it will be the same problems, those same problems that are waiting for those people coming here. And if these people are not educated beforehand, it will be even worse. So, how can we organize a situation where these people can adjust themselves better into their new life? Let's now turn to the side of the government and the authorities. What kind of services are they making available for those people to live in Sweden, in the first few years at least, to integrate and to stand on their own feet? What are the services? What are the preparations being made at the moment? From the state authority, Kronoberg authority, or county authority, when we look at it, there's huge preparation being done at the moment to welcome those people and to prepare all those services they may need when they come to Sweden. These are housing, education, give him support from as a handläggare, someone who can vägledare, or someone who can show the way to integrate into Swedish life, or maybe explaining what he's expected to do and how he could manage his life in accordance with the rules and regulations of the nation. What are his entitlements and his rights? A handläggare explains all these things. So he's already put in place and is made ready. Housing is preparation, is okay. And so many other things. Until the person, education is prepared. So the person, when he comes, the education sector will prepare where to put this man or this woman so that the person will develop himself or herself into higher levels of education, or maybe at least to a level where he can speak, read and write the Swedish language, so that he can start integrating with the rest of his life, rest of the country. So this is what the county level preparations are, and the agencies involved are quite many. The Migration Board, Länsstyrelsen, the Kommun, Kulturparken, Maken. So many agencies are involved, and other foreigners, the Somali foreigning, they are all involved in how to welcome these people. But in between these two sides now, the people coming to Sweden from Africa and the authorities and the agencies trying to at least give as much services as they can to those people coming here, those two sides, between them, there's a missing link. There's a link still missing, which has to be connecting both sides. And that link is the local link. More involvement of the Somali community is needed in this respect. Because as the state or the county authorities are trying to integrate these people through proper housing, proper education, and other necessary services, these people would need social adjustment, cultural adjustment, family caretaking, because the family, when they are new to Sweden and they are put in a house, well, the responsibility of the authority is already done. Any organization involved in housing these refugees has done his job well, because once the family is put in a house, that's the end of his job. Then it continues from there to schooling, to other things. But between these stages of housing, of education, of employment, there are so many gaps in between. And these are the gaps necessary or needed to be filled in by active involvement of, with active involvement of the community organizations, especially in this respect, the Somali Community Organization. Unless the community organization is active to take part in the social and cultural adjustment of the newcomers, it will always be a problem for the state to be successful and to at least show any meaningful impact in the services and the resources they are giving to those newcomers. Imagine a family who came right from a refugee camp, who is resettled in a house in Växjö, and who does not know even where the supermarket is. It's quite a problem for this family to sustain a life of happiness, because they are fighting with the immediate concerns of their life, like going out to make a shopping. And in the shopping, what kind of things they should shop. And as you know, when people come to Sweden, especially when they are Somalis, we are afraid of two things. That's the pork and the liquor. So if we buy something from a shop, we are always afraid of buying the wrong stuff. And it's already a preoccupation that has been built up in our minds before we came to Sweden, that we always have to avoid these things. And how can we know? Because everything is there. If you eat this, if you like this, if you don't like this, it's up to you, you have to choose. So a person who has never shopped in a supermarket and sees so many packaged foods, industrialized foods, where does he start? And it's not only one time that he needs to be shown. He may need several times. And even the streets he's taking towards the shop, the places he's trying to visit, all these areas, he needs support. So a strong social involvement from the side of the Somali community is very much appreciated. And that is a missing link. And I hope that that has already been taken into consideration. And much effort is being underway to at least cover, to fill this gap. And these people need also cultural orientation. Although we have some health orienteering, when people come, immediately they go to some health orienteering. That's community orientation. They take 9 lessons in 9 weeks, from 9 in the morning to 17 in the evening or the afternoon. That's pretty long time, but worth doing it, because a person has to catch up with the situation in which he was supposed to live. So some health orienteering is very good, but still it covers the general information of the institutions he has to link up with and he has to interact with, like the Skatteverket, Arbeidsförmedlingen, the rights he has for getting employment, how to make progress in Sweden, and all these things, the child rights, women rights. These are the things he's taking in this orientation. But the man or the person needs more than that, such as information. I am a teacher of some health orienteering for people coming from Somalia who are still fresh. And the things I've discovered is far from what these people are being provided. The people are provided with a maximum support in terms of integration. But the level in which they start in the life of Sweden is really so far away from where the same health orienteering starts. Someone is supposed to learn what the Skatteverket means when he hasn't seen anyone paying tax. And someone wants to vote in Sweden, and he's trained how to understand the voting systems of Sweden and his rights to cast a vote. But he has never been in anywhere in voting a cast throughout his life. So these are the areas where the local organizations, especially the Somali community, would come in and fill in and try to make the links connected, the missing gaps covered and breached, so that the impact of the state effort will be much greater. Because the absorption capacity of the of the communities coming or the refugees coming to Sweden, their capacity to absorb these services will be much higher. Because as they understand, as they get support from their own local counterparts, and the more they got this support, the more they understand and they appreciate what the state is offering to them. As I have been involved in this orientation sessions and projects, there are so many grudges, so many misunderstandings, so many things that need to be corrected. Not so bad enough that they are almost out of hopeless. No, they are not so hopeless, but there is a need that things has to be done to put them together so that the overall function of, or the coordination of, or the overall coordination of the state, of the county level, of the local organizations, of the institutions, and of the community themselves are being put together so that the output will be much stronger. I think these are the things I have so far noted, and I hope that it would be a success. Thank you very much. Well, we are coming to the second part, and that is what these new refugees, the new arrivals need in terms of cultural orientation. Cultural orientation. We are almost like a nation now. It's like Somalia coming to Sweden, or like Småland. It's not a few people coming here to work and go back home. It's a whole mass coming. And you know the situation they are running away from. There's no need to go back why people are coming in such a large number to Sweden or to other parts of the country. So, such a group, and in such a large number, there must be a deeper understanding of themselves and an understanding by themselves to the situation in which they are brought in. They have to understand the cultural values of the people to whom we have joined. And the people must know what is our culture. So it's kind of cultural information or exchange, not only the Somali community, but all the immigrants coming to Småland and to Sweden. The cultural orientation or the cultural transfer of the communities coming together here is very necessary. And we today talk about the necessity and the importance of this cultural transfer and cultural exchange and understanding cultures when we come to Sweden. Now, I've been living in Småland for almost 3 years now. And there's very few that I've learned about the culture, the heritage, the values, and the history of this magnificent, beautiful country. Magnificent, I say, because it is very important in terms of education and in terms of migration. Very magnificent, very important, because it has a history of migration of about 150 years ago, which is almost the same situation in which we are at the moment. In other parts of Sweden, there are migrations, but not as so deeply as it is visible in this part of Sweden. So that's why I say it's magnificent. And beautiful, of course, because the landscape is so beautiful. And the people and their culture. So how do we learn the people and their culture? 3 years in Sweden and in Småland, I know very little. And this small part of their culture, which I have learned, I learned it since I joined the Kulturparken. When I started working for the Kulturparken a year ago, I had been working with a year on a project basis on migrations members, which is still almost now taking a new phase. So the Kulturparken then can play a very important role in cultural orientation, in orienting the newcomers into the culture and the values of the people of Sweden, and in particular on the people and history of Småland. How many cultural sites do we have here? And what are the heritages of the values and the heritage of Småland, of Sweden in this area? We don't know it. And unless the person knows the cultural values of the community he had joined, it will be very impossible for that person to fully integrate into the society and to the systems of life of that area and of that region, and of course in that nation. So the Kulturparken has a role which has been going on for quite some time at a very slow pace, but has been going on because we had orientation sessions, we had seminars, we have had so much contacts with the new arrivals. There was Embrace, as you may remember, this wonderful art exhibition at the Kulturparken, which has ended now, of course, but has left a legacy of history and has inspired many people, including myself. So this is the kind of integration or, say, etablering slots we need for the newcomers. It's kind of etablering that the people would be oriented into the cultural heritage of the communities they joined in. As you know, we have come from a country where all these heritages are destroyed. Our museums, our libraries, our monuments, and all what we thought or what we claimed to be a heritage is almost now in the rubble, down on the ground. But still, we don't forget our heritage. We have to develop, rebuild them. But unless we understand the heritage and the cultural values of the people we join in, we will have no ambition to rebuild our heritage back home. and in fact to be also part of this heritage as we build together with the rest of the communities, including the other immigrants and the Swedish people. We will have a legacy of heritage. And of course, the whole world is now moving towards a globalized heritage, I can say. But cultural orientation, for the moment, is something that we have to focus and we have to stress. And the Kulturparken is an institution that's all the time trying to link up the missing gaps and to connect the people so that people may have an understanding of their past, and at least they can predict what the future might be. So that meeting point of cultures, of identities, of heritage, which is the Kulturparken, has to be taken into consideration and has to be supported, I would say, by the other institutions and government agencies. Because the role it can play to connect people is much more faster than how other people and other agencies can connect people. So this is something I would suggest, and I hope that the newcomers will get an understanding about the situation and about the life of the new environment. So cultural orientation is always something I support, because without a culture, what is a person? The culture is not something that you show one day in a dance or in a dress code. No, it is something that you have to live with, practice it, hold it, keep it. That's the culture, and improve it, and something that changed your life to the better, not to the worse. And as you know, our cultures is almost now remains in exhibitions now, in cultural show days and in exhibitions, in pictures. All this heritage and the monuments we used to have are only in the text now. They are in print only, and they are in the books and maybe in the libraries. But we are not so much connected, or cannot practice, cannot feel it as we did when we were back home. And that cannot come back unless we understand the value of having such a culture and the value of heritage. And in coming together with other people, living together in one place, and exchanging and transferring cultures to each other can at least enhance the understanding and develop the wider cultural values of the whole communities. So if other people are showing their culture or maybe practicing their own culture, if you cannot have anything to contribute, if you are not holding something as a material or as an ethic, which you have to preserve as a culture, then what do you contribute then? How can you live with other people who are holding cultures of their own and who are willing to transfer culture and accept other cultures? How can you then live in that situation? You may lag behind, and you may not be even integrating, and you may lag even in education and in employment, and you may be left behind. And we will see in 50 years, if we do not integrate as fast as others are doing, we shall be left behind. Like, I cannot have the right or the proper word to say, but integration is the solution to our problems. Not that we are asked to throw away what we came with and take new things and new cultures. No. It's just have your own culture and accept other cultures and live with other cultures and tolerate others and respect others as much as you want to be respected and tolerated for. That is the integration, cultural integration, religious integration. These are the things we are supposed to do. And the Kulturparken, that is the role where so much of meaningful inputs can be shown by the Kulturparken. because this interaction of cultures, of bringing people together, of making them share a common identity and heritage, and coming a common forum so that they can reinforce as a community to build a culture of their own as a community, not one community, but multinational communities. Because as you can say in Småland now, it's not only Swedish people living here at the moment. If you go to Storgatan, you see so many different people. Sometimes you hear different languages, not Swedish. These are the people you are living with as Somalis. And these are the people expecting you to join in their journey towards change. So it's practically possible to integrate culturally and to be yourself still, and as a community still hold your own cultures, but to make cultural integration. We have to know what is the history of this region or this county. We have to know what people have lived for, and how did they live for, and how did they maintain their life, how did they manage their life, how did they cope with these situations. And we have to teach them as well, in poetry, in songs, in oral transmission of literature, as we did before in Somalia, or maybe in a script. We can write them, and we can perform in the theaters, and we can put our women at the forefront because they are the center of our unity. Thank you very much.